Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our very first lecture. No? We are going to talk about, obviously, as your subject description dictates, no? The history of English language. The history of English language is a very broad topic, no? As I rewatched the parts and content of the modules or the very source na atong gamiton karon, no? The very book that we are referring to. It's a very long topic and it's very broad, extensive enough for you not to understand it. I'm sure kay gabi gyud siya ka-complicated, but in some sense I've realized that to make it more practical, no, and to make it more understandable sa inyong tanan, I just included those parts nga important lang yun, okay, and also necessary for you and for everyone at the right pace and the right manner. Sige, English 101, the very first English major, no, sa inyong course to be the masters of English language. You need first to understand the English language itself. Now, I know for a fact that you already have an idea what language is. Okay? Now, to give you a gist, what language really is, it is used mainly for communication, it is used mainly for expression of something, and used to many sources, to many functions, and to many features. Now, daghan kayo gamit ang language, yes, that's true. And you might want to agree with that. Agree mo? Daghan kayo gamit or functions ang language. Yes or no? Okay. So, in introducing the course, no, the history of English language. Taas kayo atong tahakon, no? But first and foremost, I would like to introduce the course outcomes. Okay? The very goals that you will achieve in this module, okay, or in this course or after this semester. Now, you should be able to describe the fundamental components of language systems and word formation. That's very basic because you are expected to do that not only for a fact that you are an English language major, but also you are now college students. Okay, you can form any types of words as expected, and you should identify or describe the fundamental features of languages, or so-called the language systems. Secondly, identify the Anglophone countries. Of course, distinguishing their similarities and differences. We will touch Anglophone, such word, ma-describe na siya and ma-discuss na siya further as we go on in this lecture. You will be able to differentiate, to distinguish the similarities and the differences of those Anglophone or Anglophone countries. Okay? Thirdly, briefly describe the history and the expansion of English in the British Isles and around the world. Meaning to say, the expansion of the language, no? You have to know the history of it, and you must know how language is processed to this day, and also how language is processed before. Okay? Fourthly, describe the evolution of the English language from its inception until its modern form. As I said earlier, to be able to understand the English now, I know for a fact also that you understand English. Okay? Which is why you are agreeing in some sense, you are agreeing to what I'm saying right now, and you are absorbing to everything that I'm saying. No? That's just basic observation. And lastly, identify the social-linguistic aspects of the Anglophone world countries. Okay? Sa Anglophone world countries, diyan nato ma-define where English really came from and how English is really used, no, and utilized by many countries around the world. Okay? So, these are the course outcomes, ladies and gentlemen. And hopefully, each one of us or each one of you rather, will achieve this gracefully. Now, the Module 1 is entitled The Concept of Language. Now, sir, anong kinahanglan man may mag-tackle about language? Okay? So, the reason why it is included in your Module 1 as the primary module, no, and as the primary concept of language is that you must need to master the different concepts concerning language. Dili ka makaproceed to know something if you don't know the language itself. Okay? You cannot understand what I'm saying if you don't know the language that I'm saying. That's why it's very important. You cannot write something in your paper right now as you're jotting down notes without understanding the language. You might be writing down in Surigao nun, in Bisaya, depending on your learning style, no? But what I'm saying here is that every language should be mastered and should be understood plainly by each one of us here, so that we will have a clear understanding of what it is that we are trying to discuss later on. Nasabtan? Okay. So the Module 1 has this one comprehensive objective. Okay? Kini ang goal sa Module 1. Define a language and identify its various elements as a system, signs, vocal, and as a human means of communication. So all the features of languages, as I said earlier, no, the grammatical features, all the nonverbal and the verbal characteristics of language, the general characteristics of language itself, especially the English, no? Because, you are all English language majors, no? Like, that's the expectation, that's the standard right there. You must know the language itself, particularly the English language. Okay? Now, it is expected of you to achieve this goal, to define, okay, that's very basic, to define a language and identify its various elements, no? Very cognitive lang siya na part, and that is why it is comprehensive enough, because through identifying the language, it means that you really understood what I'm talking here. Okay? And also not just the systems, but the overall sign languages, no? The vocal means of communicating, and the ultimate precious goal of language, good, such as it is a tool, yes, good afternoon, it is a tool to communicate. Okay? It is a tool to be used in communicating. Of course, I am communicating right now. I am the one who is speaking, and you are the ones that are listening and receiving those words that I'm saying. Okay? And the tool that I'm using right now is through vocal language. Sabtan? Okay, very good. Now, the module learning outcome is just very simple for us to achieve, hopefully, no? At the end of this module, ma-productive yun tang tanan. That's what I just hope, no? Solely. Lesson 1, is entitled Language as a System. As I said, the system itself has this English language, no? The system itself has this grammatical features of the English language. Because class, dili man ta mahimog master sa English language, di man ta mahimog expert sa English language if we don't know the basics. Okay? It all starts from the basics. Athletes know this and would agree on this full well, no? Na on analogical reasoning, ako siya i-relate sa mga athletes for a while, no? Because the basics are very important. Because the drills, the practices, and even the boring things that they do sa practice, mga athletes, okay, I'm talking about the athletes, important na siya sa game. Okay? And in language, ang game here is to communicate. That's the ultimate goal of language. Take note of that, okay? Ultimate goal of language and the ultimate use of language is to communicate or for communication. Take note of that. Language as a system. It means that sa sistema, kung sabihin sa pa no, ang sistema, ang lingwahe daw, whether English, Bisaya, Tagalog, Chinese, Mandarin, whatever language it is, it has a system. Okay? Meaning to say that it has a grammatical function, meaning to say that it has grammatical features to be followed, no? Familiar sa descriptive and prescriptive grammar? Okay? Familiar ba mo, dili? Okay, those are the things that we will talk about later. So, we will not really dig deeper, no? Sa pinaka-specifics yun ng language, especially sa grammar. But what we will rather do is to just grasp the entire concept. Okay? Para mas masabtan yun ninyo nga ang language, whether Bisaya, naa siya'y grammar nga dapat sundon. Especially sa English. Nasabtan. Okay. Language as a system. That's lesson 1. Okay? Now, if we have module outcomes, no, we also have this lesson learning outcome. You must identify a language as a system. That's very easy, right? You just need to identify, name the language as a system. A system of rules and patterns that relate into words. You can borrow chairs sa Pika's classroom. Diyan pa isa, okay. You can borrow a chair, Pika's room. If vacant rasab, pwede ka din magbuyo sa Pika's. Pangigo na. Identify a language as a system of rules and patterns that relate words to one another. Okay? It's very self-explanatory that to be able to be master or to be the masters of English, no? And any language per se, we have to identify the rules. Okay? The patterns also that relate to words, unsay kalahian, how do they connect with each other, and all those kinds of stuff. Okay, the illustration says it the most. The illustration really portrays what is needed to be portrayed. Okay? Why bakante na ingkoranan? No vacant chair. Sa Pikas gyud. Pag suroy mo, lang mag-borrow lang may na kulangan mig chair. So that you can make yourself comfortable sitting. Language as a system. When we speak a specific language, we want to speak clearly. We want to speak so that we can be understood by the audience or those people that we are talking to. I am speaking plainly. I am speaking directly to you so that I can be understood by all of you, especially the lessons that I'm trying to portray here. Ansa man na? Asa man ang room? Pwede pa kipos anay? Ay, ako kan. Okay, let's resume. Where did we left off pagani? Language as dire pata no? Language as a system. Now, when we talk about language, we should follow a certain grammatical rule. For example, I cannot say that you is beautiful because that's clearly ungrammatical. Okay? There's a high possibility that the receiver of that language or the thought would misunderstood the things that I'm saying, no? Especially the thought. So, the language as a system here is very important for you to note because we cannot identify any means of ideas, we cannot receive, we cannot embrace any types of emotions, no? Any types of ideas and information without actually knowing how to produce language efficiently. Okay? We must produce, there's a linguistic difference here, we must produce language efficiently. Take note. To produce language efficiently is to use language effectively. Okay, there is a difference. Now, in linguistic sense, there is also the phonological difference, that's very basic, and semantic difference. We will not talk about those things because we are just here to introduce the history of English language. But first and foremost, I am introducing language first so that para unya nga lesson, dili na mo maglibog. Okay? Trust me, this is the right process for all of us or for all of you to understand even more about the history of language. English language. Language as a system. Kung sa school na to, natay sistema, magbayad og tuition, no? Para maka-permit and maka-exam, di ba? Is it still the system now? Okay. So, if we have that kind of system in our school, we have rules to follow, no? We have this kind of structural system that we must obey so that dili ta mabagsak and maka-exam gihapon ta. Okay? Those are the natures of a system. Right? It's a series of rules that one must follow so that one must not be left behind. Nasabtan? Okay, very good. Questions before we proceed? Questions? Wala? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, let's proceed. The language is composed of many different types of grammar and, of course, linguistic features. By language, I mean it does not only refer to vocal language and written language, because there are languages used by the mutes, no? Naatay sign languages, naapod tayo written languages, as I said. But one of the characteristics of language is that language is primarily vocal. Okay? Language is primarily vocal, meaning to say that when we talk about language, we can clearly identify language through verbal action, through speaking. Let's say that there is a formal event. There is an NEMCO, no? Let's just say, for example, and then the school invited a very esteemed and famous speaker, let's say. And the background of that speaker is that he majored in English language, a PhD of literature and linguistics, no, masters in English, and tanan sa klase sa English. But by the time nga nagsulti na siya sa stage, incorrect ang grammar. What would you think? Of course, it's incredible enough for that person, di ba? Dili siya katuuhan according to his credentials or her credentials, because we can identify the competence of someone sa iyang language if we identify it first sa speaking nga aspect. Okay? If you ask someone of his or her name, dili mo na musulat og sa papel, no? Siguro. Unsa may ngalan nimo? Musulat pa day. It's not entirely the thing, no? When you ask someone his or her name, unsa man ni? When you ask someone his or her name directly, the means of communicating will resort into speaking. Okay, because language is primarily vocal. Okay? We can identify and we can use language vocally and through speaking, not through writing. Although it is an expression of language, no, kanang magsulat ka, and authors would actually agree on this, that one of the main expressions and ways to express language is through writing. But linguists would disagree on that, because linguists said nga ang written language is just secondary representation or graphic representation of the spoken English language. Nakuha ninyo ang point? Kuha? Nasabtan? Yes or no? Sure? Pag mangutan ako yung ngayon, what's your name? Yes, she speaks. It proves that language is primarily vocal. Okay? Gawas ko mangutan na kasamang. Okay? Because language really says most of the time, no, nga it is primarily vocal. That's one characteristic of language. I can go on to many more characteristics, but we will run out of time. We will run out of time, rather. Let's just proceed. It is important to have these parts of speech, no? We will not, di na natin isa-isahon, okay? We will not tackle each one of them because again, our time is limited. But rather, I just want you to be aware that to master language, you must also consider these parts of speech. And to be able to know how to use or when to use noun, verb, and all of these things. Okay? You cannot use a verb in an incorrect sentence. You cannot use a noun if it is placed on the verb part of the sentence, for example, or the verb phrase of the sentence. Although there are some technical considerations, but the basic understanding of all of these parts, especially the 8 basic parts of speech, must be mastered and considered by all of you. You want to really learn the history of English language? Let's learn the basics of English language first. Okay? Sige. Parts of speech, really important. Affixes, kanang mga, for example, dislike, the DIS in dislike, no? You must identify that this one is just a prefix, no? Meaning nag-una siya. You must know the differences of prefix, suffix, and the affixes as a whole, no? The unwanted, unlike, unfriend, diba? All of those words are composed, is composed correctly through using grammatical features, through using correct grammatical technicalities, no? We will not again dig deeper on these parts because pang linguistics na siya nga topic, okay? Pang morphology na siya nga topic, specific branch of linguistics. So you just have, what I'm saying here is just you just need to understand and consider the parts of speech and the affixes so that you can be able to again grasp the concept overall of English language. O dyan, word order. For example, read palihog. The man finished the job. You need also to be aware of the word order or the sentence structure of the things that you are saying or the things that you will say. Okay? Sa imong thoughts na i-arrange na. Kung saan pag-arrange, to be aware of those things that I said. Okay? To be mindful of those specific grammatical features because those are very crucial. Nagmaster pa man ta sa English, nag-learn pa man ta sa English language, no? And the history of it, we cannot proceed without learning the predecessor, such as learning the language, especially the English language. Word order. Sige. Kaning nga sentence, let's use this as, for example, it is unstructured. Libog yun siya kayo sabton. But masabtan siya, dili. Masabtan, dili. Dili? Sabtan, dili. Okay, very good. You can understand now basics of English language, right? That's the first or earlier premise. Correct? Pasabot nga makasabot mo sa English. Kaya nakasabot man mo ani. Masabtan makanin yun eh. Okay, very good. Nakasilabot kita. No, maskin sa Binisaya. Okay, you're also a master of Bisaya language. Multilingual mo, congratulations. Multilingual punta, congratulations. So, the focus only here is the English language. The man finished the job. Imagine if, ako na sila balik taron. The job finished the man. Wala ganayos trabaho. Okay? And it must be applied to construction workers and to any other workers, no? Blue collar, white collar, name it. Pagbalik taron nimo na, Good luck. The job finished the man. Basig wa matuog ng trabahante. Basig gamay og sweldo. No? The job finished the man. You see the importance of the word order, no? Nasabtan ninyo ang pasabot sa word order na you need to use language correctly to be understood. Okay? Because again, the ultimate goal of language, what is it again? The ultimate precious goal of language, such as to communicate or for communication. Okay, very good. Now, I hope that you really get the idea na sabtan sa likod. Okay, sige. Very good. Now, the function words, we need also to consider this one. No? The function words, what do we mean by function words? We have in English language, we have the fanboys, no? The word for. Wait lang. Where's my chalk? Kabalo mo sa fanboys? For and pagani. Fanboys, for and, nor, be, but, or, yet, so. Balo man lagi mo? Di na ta magtudlog English language. Kas-kaso tayo tag-oras ani. Now, it goes to show nga naamoy prior knowledge about English language, okay? And you can identify really the basic sense of what is it that it is going to be considered for you to communicate well. Okay? These are the fanboys or the function words. Wala siya meaning. Kung imo siya i-subton, unsa meaning sa so? It's different from the word person. Diba? Dili siya function word, ang person nga word, because, again, that has meaning. These coordinating conjunctions are just there for grammatical functions, para magmukhang maganda ang ating sentence. Okay? Kay, pag wala, lain po kayo pamation, no? Pag di ka mo gamit og and. Okay? Yesterday, I ate apple orange. Pwede day na. Wala may and. The most correct way of saying is yesterday, comma, I ate apple and orange. Di pwede ka mo gamit og or. Kaya you're stuck in a situation. Yesterday, na-miss siya na siguro ka, kaya waka kadumdum, kaya nagamit mo kag or. Okay? The list goes on and on and on if we try to elicit some examples here. Okay? Nasabtan? Okay. Function words, very important. Module 2 na ta. Let's proceed now to the module 2. But before we do that, questions, clarifications, confusions. Wala na? Sa language lang ta. Nangutan na. Ay, saan mo pangutan na? Dili, pagay na ito maklase. Confusion sa language? Wala na? Sure? Okay, let's proceed. Module 2 is entitled The Anglophone World. Okay? When we say Anglophone, it's not a specific smartphone. Okay? It's not a smartphone. Anglophone refers to is the term that refers to the English speakers. Okay? English speakers. The Anglophone world. Now, in this map, as you can see, kung maklaro yun din nyo, if you have an eagle vision, congratulations. Now, if you can see, kanang mga naka-colored nga map, the colored ones are those countries speaking English. Okay? At least the majority of the people, no, are using the English language in these countries. Okay, take a look at it first, and before we proceed, again, ibaw-an na ninyo ang history of English language as I try to explain while you looking at this very illustration. English language is spoken by more than 1 billion people. Imagine that. Sikat kayo ang language, but where did English language really came from? Is language nag-exist lang ba siya haphazardly? In history, English, as we know of it today, is English today the English that the historic people know before? It's not the same, I'm telling you. Because English language before is very complicated, and English language now, it's like the big Creole of the different pidgins. Okay? It is a combination of the different languages known as the root words or the etymological meaning of the words. Way back 2,000 or 2,500 years ago, maybe even older than that, no? There is this one cultural group or mga tribes before. Okay? They are called the Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons. Okay? Yes? The Anglo-Saxons or the Angles or the Saxons combined, no? Naapay mga Jutes not to mention, naapod tay mga group of people ngay ana, but overall they are called the Anglo-Saxons. Kinsa man ni sila? Focus sa tadirea, okay? Para masusabtan. Kinsa man ni sila? Who are these people? These people are the ones that invaded some places in kaning lugar, United Kingdom. Sa atong history, in our history, no, we were oppressed and we were colonized by the Spaniards or the Spanish people. But the history of English also dictates that there are historical events nga naga-influence, no, sa atong English language. At least the language that we are using, no, not to call it our own because it's not our own language. The language that we are using today, language Filipino, no, Bisaya, English, is influenced by those historical events before. And what are those events exactly? For example, let's go locally. Kalimtisan eh. Kalimtisan eh. Let's forget about this for a while, okay? In the Philippines, we were oppressed and again, nasakop ta sa Spaniards. Right? And do you think nga sa ilang 333 years nga pangamuyo din sa Philippines, wala maka-influence sila sa language? Yes or no? Naka-influence sila? Wala? Naka-influence. So, meaning to say, in a conclusion, no, to conclude, historical events influence language. Meaning to say, samang judeng langawa, meaning to say that each part of the historical event before contributes to the language that we are using right now. This applies also to each part of those places outside of the Philippines. No? Maybe na wala tayo kaibuanan sa history ng Africa, for example, ng history ng Indonesia, for example, no? Ng Thailand, for example. We don't know anything. But the point here is that any historical event is influenced or it can influence the development of language. Okay? Where do you think ang mga kakaang tao, I remember my lola using the words more often about mga John Kutsara na word, ventilador, no? It came from a Spanish word. Na-develop na siya and nagamit na siya nato because of the historical events such as oppressing or colonizing the Filipinos. It is written in our history, for those of you that want to debate me, it is written in the history, no? Accepted by majority of the people, nga tungod sa ilang panakop, no? Natakdan ta sa ilang storya. Okay? This is something to do with language acquisition, and we acquired their language mostly because kadugay nila din sa ato, no? 333 years gyud to be exact. Okay? So, nakuha ninyo ang point, no? Nga ang historical event can influence again the language development. Nasabtan. So, let's go back here. Balik ta. Sa Anglo-Saxons, mao ni sila ang mang-invade og planets before. But most of the time, they are just finding a place to live, no? Kay sa una, uso ba yung mag-travel-travel? Si Magellan, uso ba sa una mag-travel-travel, no? Sa una, ang traveling, it's very easy, and to circumnavigate the world is even easy before because they have that courage and mostly siguro free. But for some purpose, the Anglo-Saxons trying to circulate the places called United Kingdom today. But before, daghan na siya, di pa na siya united sa una. Okay? Di pa na siya united. It is composed of different kingdoms before. No? Kung sa Philippines pa nato ihalin tulad, okay? Ang Philippines, kung sa Philippines pa nato, no, ang UK, kung ihalin tulad nato sa Philippines, Mindanao, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao pa ni sa una. Okay? Di pa siya matawag Philippines. Same sa kingdoms na naa sa United Kingdom. It is now called United Kingdom kaya nagkahiusa naman sila from the word united. But before, they were composed of different kingdoms na tagsakop ng mga invaders, namely the Danes and the Vikings. Maog yun na silang mga invaders. Ang Vikings. Go pupod din sila kanang magbarko-barko sa una. Vikings, and they tried to invade through a forceful force or a forceful way, no? They try to invade the places in United Kingdom because the Vikings, kanipod ng grupo, by the way, this one, kaning nga grupo si Anglo-Saxon, is the Germanic group. Take note, ha? Germanic group. On the other hand, Vikings came from Denmark. Hence, they are called as, aside from Vikings, gitawag pug sila og Danes. From the word itself, Denmark. Okay? The Danes are feared by the people coming from the United Kingdom. Okay, uso ang invasion sa una. Okay, the invasions from different countries before were very evident, historically speaking, and that causes the development of language. Okay, now unsa man di ay sir unsa may what's the significance of me saying these cultural groups, no, ethnic groups? Well, the significance is that the languages used by Anglo-Saxons, of course, walay English. Asa man sila gikan? Germany. Ang sa ilang language? German, of course. The German language dominated or has been dispersed, not entirely dominated, okay? Dispersed or nikanat na siya as they try to live in some places sa UK or United Kingdom. Okay? Please listen because this is a very crucial topic, and I want you to really analyze what's going on or what was going on before. That is why I need you to look at the picture as a whole. Okay? Look at the bigger picture because diri nagikan sa Germany nagtravel-travel ang mga Anglo-Saxons. Okay? And as you travel, you try to talk. Of course, language is primarily vocal, di ba? You try to talk, you try to even fight. Kay ang territorial property sa una, it's very crucial, no? Paunahay, maka-invade. Of course, nag-asam sa mga Spaniards sa ato sa una. It's because of our virgin land. Okay? Now, as the Anglo-Saxons try to live to these parts in UK, the language, the Germanic language, has been dispersed. Napasa siya, and English language, as I said, again, is only the combination of many different languages, including the German, Greek, Roman, Latin, okay? French, even French language. Many different languages influence the English language of the language that we know today. Okay? Sanan si Anglo-Saxon, mabilong pud siya, no? It belongs to those invaders because, again, the language, the Germanic language, has been scattered sa UK. Okay? Let's move on sa Vikings. Also sa Vikings, they have different language there because they came from Denmark. Naa sila diri na part. Okay? This is Denmark, this is Greenland, and this is only a territory of Denmark. Okay? Siguro nasakop na nila in history, but that's not our focus. Sa Denmark, of course, duol ra ang UK. Okay? This is UK, and duol ra ang Denmark. It's very nearby, so that also man ang invasion sa una, no? They try to use force again because they are the Vikings. You can search that in history, no? The Vikings are very known for invading places through the use of force. Okay? Mga violent yun na siya, mga violent yun na sila. Okay? They're very well known in fighting, and they are very very well known also in terms of their invasions. Now, going back sa history, okay? Ang language ng Danes and ang language ng Anglo-Saxons are mostly Proto-Indo-European languages. Take note. Okay? The Proto-Indo-European languages, and it doesn't necessarily mean nga napasag yun siya instantly. It was passed instantly to the English speakers or to those people nga naa sa UK, but it is a long process, no? Taas pod kayo ang process. Just like sa history ng Philippines, it doesn't happen in one day. Nga pagkanhin ni Magellan, automatically we know the Spaniards language na, no? We know the Spanish language na. No, it doesn't mean like that. It doesn't work like that at all. Okay? So, ang process here takes really long time. And that's not our entire focus also. Because our focus here is how language, the English language, is influenced by these invaders. Okay? And take note, the very first known English language is the Old English language. The Old English. Try to read, please. Try to read now the English, the Old English. Huh? I think the only word understandable here is this. His and kani. Kani. Par. Sa Tagalog biya, focus biya ni. No? It is very common sa Tagalog language, especially in modern times today. But most of the time, or most of these words are incomprehensible. Agree? Incomprehensible ba ang words or masabtan ninyo? Who can read the Old English? Raise your right hand. Any one of you here? Makabasa sa Old English? Wala? Okay, so we agree that Old English is very hard to understand. Correct? Okay. So Old English are those types of languages, no? Or is the type of language that has been used before. Sa time pa ni Beowulf, familiar mo sa story? Beowulf? Okay, sige. Never mind. Si Old English mo na pinaka language na gigamit ng mga Anglo-Saxons and ng Danes or Vikings. Okay? Now, the languages that they use as they try to be in those places, no? Sa UK, nagklase-klase man ang mga butang or mga places diha, as they try to walk through those places and invade those places, they apply their Old English because English before is this one. Dili po siya masabtan karon because it's not entirely the thing that we know of today. So that is the English, Old English, I mean. How about the early modern English? Masabta na siya, no? Okay. Ngano masabta naman siya, sir? It's because of the development caused by those historical events. Okay? As one is using language, sa sige gamit og language, ma-develop man gyud na. Okay? Language will be developed if used continually. Language will be developed if used by the majority of people, and I think that the English language is used by the majority of people. That is why there is development, or there is still development going on. Early modern English pa ni siya. Okay? Early modern English, and then we try to move forward sa modern English. Masabta na yun ni. This is actually the language that we are having today. Sa English language. No? Modern English, Jesus continued, there was a man who had 2 sons, and so on and so forth. It's clearly understandable. Agree? Mabasa na? Masabtan? Okay. So, these are the words, no, that belong to the modern English. And I think that it is very important for us to understand and to introduce the Grimm's Law. Sa una, way back sa Old English, remember Old English is the very first timeline before used by these cultural groups. Okay? Unsay language gani sa kang Anglo-Saxons and sa kang Vikings. What was the language again? Old English. So, Old English is used frequently before, no? Pirmi gyud siya gigamit, but there are some things lacking, obviously, because if we go back to Old English, we cannot understand. Okay? We cannot understand. Why? Because according to this 18th century linguist named Jacob Grimm, he's a German linguist, again, and he stated that the reason why Old English is not comprehensible enough, especially for us, modern English language users, no, is because there are missing components or consonant letters before. Na-add siya karon through using language through time and through time. And what are the missing pieces of English language before? Delete sa nato ni si UK. So in Greek word, of course they have their own language, right? Sa Greece. In Greek, the word pater and the Latin is still pater, and in Gothic, no, in Germanic language, it is father, and then in English it is father. Okay? So poda, pedem, Photo, foot di ay sa English. So this is the established form of those combined sources of the word. Again, English is just a combination of those languages existed before the modern English. Nasabtan. Because of this, nataying ani. Sabtan? So, sa trees, trust, three, no? Na-notice ninyo ang shift ng words, how those words influence the very perfect form, understandable form of the English language. So we got to have a lot of credits to all of these. Diba? That is why ang Indo-European languages, it is called Indo-European, combination of Indo-European is a combination of pro-European people and the European people nga naglive yun sa Europe. Okay? Ang Greek and the Latin one, no? The Spanish and those countries coming from Europe. But anyway, these are the laws of Jacob Grimm. Okay? And mostly he is famous of his so-called consonant shift. Okay, before ang letters sa Old English let's focus on Old English. Sa letters P, letter T, and letter K, those are the most dominant letters or consonant letters sa Old English. Okay, letter P, letter T, and letter K. But as you pronounce the letter P, letter T, and letter K, manotice ninyo that there is an aspirated voice, an aspirated phoneme right there. When you try to pronounce P, naa siya mo ang letter H nga hangin, no? Letter H. Sa una sa English language, before, there was no letter H. Wala siya yung letter H. And sa consonants, wala po siya mag-exist. That's why it's very hard to understand the Old English, no? So, tagpakita na ako kagaina. It's very hard to understand because some pieces are still not yet discovered. Wala siya yung letter H, and discover ang letter H according to Jacob Grimm is by pronouncing or using the languages. Letter P, letter T, and letter K, if you pronounce those letters, naa siya yung letter H, if you notice. P, naa siya hangin nga. P, naa siya H nga hangin. P, or sound. H, sound. And letter T, naa siya aspirated sound. Okay? Letter P, sabay daw kami. Letter P, T, K. You notice the letter H there. Diba? If you try to pronounce the letter P, mga siyag na ay gamay nga H. P, and the sound T, naa po siya gamay nga letter H, diba? The ha sound. Ha. Ay lang tulahay, basig mag-bono yung katapad. Ha sound. Okay? T. That is why Jacob Grimm really studied the consonant shift, because it is the way of understanding the development of English language. We are now talking the history of English language. So far, nakasunod? Okay, very good. Now, the Latin English, let's try to move forward, no? The Latin English words in brackets, no? The letter P, or the letter P before, dominant man siya, no? As Jacob Grimm would suggest, dominant good siya, meaning ginagamit good siya permi sa Old English. Letter P, letter T, and letter K. Okay? Those are just one of the examples. Please listen. Those are just one of the examples, no? Sa mga dominant letters. But here's the thing. Jacob Grimm said that letter P also influenced the letter F nga sound. P, dili na siya yung nga process. It's not this process anymore. But it's the process of articulating the letters and inventing new letters. Letter P, it sounds like letter F. When you try to, Filipinos know this full well, no? It's common to Filipinos, among Filipinos, na ang letter F sa father, mahimo siyang dingding. Okay? Mahimo siyang dingding. Because we often mispronounce the words and it is highly influenced by our accent, no? But the thing here is, according to the Old English, no? According to Old English history, we are talking about historical language right now. The letter P sa Old English really influenced the usage of letter F. Okay? Ped, for example, na-invento ang foot. No? Sa pisk, ang word sa una, pisk, hantod sa na-invento ang letter F, na-establish na good siya as fish. And sa Pinoy na sab, ang fish nga word, mahimo sab Johnny mo na wayong. Oh? Usahay ang fish, amo-amo ka mang good sir. Sometimes we mispronounce pa. Okay? So, the influence is present, no? And another example, pater, sa una, sa Latin, no? Pater, until such time nga naimbento si letter F. Father. Father. Okay? Pyro man sa una ang kayo day sa una, no? Pyro. Pyro. In Latin, it's pyro. But as speakers use the English language, no, as time goes by, na-develop siya into, again, fire. Letter T na pod, one dominant letter, one consonant letter sa Old English, no? Since Old English ang pinagid kauna, let's try to tackle that. And letter T, no? Di ba, as we pronounce back in this process, we pronounce T na siya aspirated voice. There's an aspirated voice, letter H nga voice. T and H, no? The speakers before experiment to combine the two letters. Since na-invento naman si letter H, no? Ay, naaday letter H. Kay as we pronounce the aspirated voice, people before identify the letter H. Right? As it is existing, no, at that time, people are trying to experiment and combine the two. Letter T and letter... By the way, this symbol is the outcome of these two combinations. The word or the sound the. Those. Them. The. Diba? Na-notice ninyo ang consonant shift or ang consonant development ng English language? Diha nagsugod. Nasabtan. Sabtan? So, ang the na sound or na sound, no? Tres man na sa Latin sa una, which is present gihapon na karon because the Spaniards are using Latin words before, no? Influence pod, naapod sa ato ni nga word until now, ang tres. Until such time, nga by the way, this is the common grade for college students, no? Okay na basta maka-tres daw. And until such time nga na-imbento kani nga symbol or kani nga sound, the sound or sound, it is used to have this kind of word. Pakibasa? Ano yung tres? Three. Three. It's not three, ha? Because you are referring to those maybe nature lover yun ka. Okay? Two. Mauna ang sa una. Okay? Until thou or though, it is common in medieval English or Middle English, but now seldom lang siya magamit ang thou, no? This is very common to Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, if you're familiar. He often uses this kind of word because William Shakespeare is placed to the timeline in medieval English. And the frater, letter T pa na siya sa una, kay wala pa man tong sound nga combination of TH. Frater. Frater. Okay? Until such time nga na-develop, sige gamit, na-invento nga naaday sound ma-produce if we combine the two letters. Therefore, brother. Okay? Sabtan. Bother. Sorry. Bother. The frater bother. Brother siguro na. Brother siguro ni. Nasaya ka ni. Okay. Okay, expected. Nasaya good siya. So that is brother. Okay? This is brother and formerly frater. Okay? Nasabtan class? Okay, very good. Now, the Grimm's Law are the ones that we should talk about this lesson. Okay? This is exactly where we try to analyze the overall topics and to generalize the overall concepts that I have just discussed. Again, when we try to learn the history of English language, one must first to know what? Language, or the basic use of language. Okay? Including the many different features and the technicalities of language, no? Because those are the most important parts to learn the history of English language. Okay? How can you identify if it is wrong if you don't know the modern English language? How can you identify that the Old English is not understandable if compared to your knowledge today, sa imong English nga nabalaan, dili siya mao? So that's why you need to understand first language, especially the English language, so that you can proceed. As I said, it is the predecessor or the prerequisite in learning the history of the English language, the most famous language in the world. Mao na inyong major. You chose this major, so you need to study. Okay? No more questions? Clarifications? Concerns? Confusion sa topics? None so far? Nasabtan? Okay. If you don't have any questions, you can go now. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate the effort. Thank you guys for coming. See you next week. Okay? Thank you.